I didn't build a shelter. Instead, I frantically took out loans to buy a dump truck king, because after the apocalypse descends, all vehicles will turn into human exoskeleton mechas. Zhang San, who owned a Ferrari, evolved into a streamlined armored assassin. Li Si, who drove a heavy-duty off-roader, became a tanky warrior. Even Wang Erma, who drove a Wuling Hongguang, awakened as logistics armor skilled in transport. But in my previous life, because I was broke, my vehicle was just a shared bicycle, and could only evolve into a ridiculous, fragile thing. But why did it have to be a bicycle? Even a budget car would have been better. It wasn't until later that I realized. All this followed the iron law of conservation of mass and functional mapping. The larger and heavier the vehicle, the stronger the converted mech. In my previous life, after I tried to provoke a mechanical Godzilla with speed, I was stepped on and crushed into a metal pancake. Before I died, I had only one thought. If there is a next life, I will definitely drive the biggest damn vehicle. When I opened my eyes again, I had actually returned to 7 days before the apocalypse. After waking up, the first thing I did was check my phone balance. I saw I only had 300 yuan. This amount isn't even enough for an e-bike wheel, but a sinister smile curled on my lips. In my previous life, I was an honest man who paid back online loans on time. But in 7 days, world order will collapse. Currency will become waste paper. The credit system will be completely wiped. Money will be the most worthless thing in the world. Borrow until it hurts. My fingers danced rapidly across the screen. Little green loan, gold interest, silver bar, IOU, application pending, applying living expenses. As long as the loan could be disbursed, I wouldn't let a single one go. Application approved. Limit, 5,000 yuan. Withdraw now. Application approved. Limit, 80,000 yuan. Withdraw now. In just half an hour, my bank balance had soared to 600,000. Not enough. Still far from enough. 600,000 before the apocalypse. Can only buy a decent Mercedes E-Class. Nothing more than a high-end piece of cannon fodder. Facing a monster like the Glutton, you'd just be able to take one more hit. I don't want survival. I want total domination. What I want is the power to blow the Glutton's head off with one punch. To walk wherever I want in this wasteland. With absolute power that nothing can stop. My gaze turned to my contacts. Those names I usually wouldn't dare contact. Loan shark broker. Hello? Is this brother who? I'm Lin Chin. Yes. I want to borrow money. Interest is not a problem. Interest is fine. Whatever the terms. Even predatory rates are fine. I want cash. The more the better. That night, in the underground financial circles of Linhai City, a man appeared. Didn't ask about interest. Didn't look at the contract. Just wanted the loan. As dawn approached, I looked at the long string of numbers in my bank account. 3.8 million. This was the number I traded for with all my future credit, and even my life. If the apocalypse doesn't come in 7 days, I'll be torn to pieces by these creditors. But the apocalypse will definitely come. I walked to the bathroom, and splashed cold water harshly on my face. The me in the mirror had heavy dark circles, but the fire burning in my eyes was enough to start a prairie fire. 3.8 million. I'm going to buy a real monster. Heavy industrial machinery trading zone. This place was filled with steel giants standing like prehistoric beasts. I walked straight into an office converted from a container. A few thugs were sitting around playing cards. Seeing me enter, a bald man with a fleshy face glanced up. Hiring? Go next door. Selling insurance? Get lost, the bald man said gruffly. I want to buy a vehicle. I didn't waste any words. I pulled out my phone, showing the striking balance screen. My voice wasn't loud, but it sounded exceptionally clear amidst the noisy gambling. The bald man stopped moving. He narrowed his eyes. 3.8 million yen. He glanced at the number on the screen. Oh boy, so you're a big boss. My mistake. Scania, Volvo, or the domestic Jiefeng? If you're doing long-haul logistics, I recommend it. I'm not doing logistics. I want the biggest one. Which truck here has the highest tonnage? I interrupted coldly. Xiao Hu was stunned for a moment, looking me up and down in my street clothes worth less than 100 yuan, wondering if I was some brain-dead rich kid who stole money from home. The biggest? We have a few retired mining dump trucks here, but those are for engineering work. They can't be driven on public roads, Xiao Hu said suspiciously. Take me to see them, I said decisively. We stood deep inside the parking lot. Even though I was mentally prepared, when I saw that behemoth with my own eyes, my breath still hitched for a moment. It was a specialized giant mining dump truck, a heavily modified SCMG 400. The body height exceeds 74 floors. The diameter of those massive tires alone was nearly 4 meters. Standing before it, I wasn't even as tall as half a tire. Curb weight 260 tons. Gross weight could reach 660 tons. Hearing that, my pupils trembled violently. In my previous life, Zhang Hao's prize Ferrari weighed only 1.5 tons. Even that mechanical beast that crushed me to death looked to be around 500 tons. If I own this truck, the moment the apocalypse arrives, according to the law of conservation of mass, this 660-ton steel body will transform into what a terrifying mecha. I reached out, trembling as I touched the rough texture of the tire. The coarse sensation at my fingertips made the blood in my veins boil. Boss, you can just look at this truck. This thing can't be registered, and it consumes too much fuel. One press of the pedal costs hundreds of yuan. Even as a decoration, it takes up too much space. Zhao Hu advised from the side. How much? I interrupted him, staring fanatically at the towering cabin. Zhao Hu thought he misheard, clearly stunned. I asked you, how much is this truck? Not for sale. I'll leave immediately. I turned my head, staring intently at Zhao Hu, my gaze like a hungry wolf staring at a piece of fatty meat. Zhao Hu's heart skipped a beat, subconsciously stepping back half a pace. Although this truck was for debt repayment, it is still an industrial beast. The original price was over 20 million. Although it's depreciated now, it's still worth at least 5 million, not a penny less. Actually, this truck had been parked here for 3 years, and nobody wants it. I could let it go for a floor price of 3 million. Zhao Hu was asking for an exorbitant price. I said coldly, I don't have that much, only 3.8 million. Zhao Hu's face darkened, half of his previous enthusiasm vanishing instantly. Then forget it. 3.8 million. Look over there. A second-hand Volvo tractor is more like it. 3.8 million. Full payment. Transferred now. And you don't need to handle the transport. I'll drive it away myself. I stared at him and continued. This truck is just scrap metal parked here. In a few more years, it'll rot away, and you won't get a single cent. Sell it to me, and you can take your commission to the club and enjoy yourself today. 10 minutes later, the electronic contract was signed. With a soft ding, the balance in my card was instantly wiped out, leaving only a few hundred yuan for living expenses. Boss, do you know how to drive this? This is different from driving a small car. You need a special license. Zhao Hu looked at me and asked. In my previous life, to scrape by in the survivor camp, I spent 3 years repairing vehicles for the convo. There wasn't a single vehicle I hadn't touched. I answered coldly. I followed the vertical metal ladders, climbing step by step to the cabin, as high as a 74-story building, sitting in that wide, driver's seat that felt like a throne. I looked down at Zhao Hu below. He looked as tiny as a mouse right now. This perspective from above. This is power. I took a deep breath. Trembling, I inserted the key into the lock, turned it. After 3 years of slumber, the heart of steel was awakened. The massive diesel engine let out a thunderous roar. The entire parking lot ground was shaking. Zhao Hu covered his ears, watching this scene in shock. Rock Crusher. No. From today onwards, you are called Fortress. Let's go home. I shifted the gear, released the handbrake, and slammed on the accelerator, accompanied by the ear-piercing screech of metal friction, and the roar of the engine. This 660-ton steel beast slowly began to move. The barbed wire fence ahead was smashed open. The boom gate at the entrance was crushed. Zhao Hu watched the giant vehicle in terror, like an uncontrolled wild bull, completely ignoring the gates, forcing its way through a path. Madman, he's fucking insane, Zhao Hu shouted from where he stood. I drove Fortress, feeling the unparalleled vibration and roar. A wide, exaggerated grin spread across my face. This shell isn't enough. There are 7 days left until the apocalypse. This time is enough to arm this vehicle to the teeth. I took out a crumpled piece of paper, with an address written on it. The largest black market modification shop in Linhai City. To install ramming horns and weld steel reinforcement nets. To turn the front into a mobile arsenal. Zhang Hao, Li Meng, and that Glutton. Are you ready to face the terror? In the northern suburbs of Linhai City, there is an area, a gray zone intentionally erased from map software. Locals call it Scrap City. This is a paradise for illegal modifications. Usually it's filled with the scream of cutting machines and the roar of heavy metal rock. But today, all of Scrap City fell into an eerie silence, because a monster had arrived. Rumble. The earth was shaking. The mining dump truck was like a moving mountain, brutally squeezing into the narrow road. The scrapped cars on both sides of the road, before this beast, were like toy models scattered on the ground. I slammed on the brakes. The air brake release sounded like a whale spraying water. Dust filled the air. A few mechanics collapsed on the ground in fear. Before long, a burly middle-aged man holding a wrench walked out. His name was Wang Taizan, the best mechanic in Scrap City. Brother, you must have taken the wrong turn. This is a repair shop, not an open-pit mine. This thing just cracked my house's foundation, Wang Taizan said, frowning. I don't want maintenance, only modifications. I pulled a folded piece of paper from my pocket, a neatly drawn blueprint. In my previous life, during countless escapes from death. The blueprint of fortress I had envisioned 10,000 times. Wang Taizan took the blueprint, with just one glance. His brow furrowed deeply. Heavy-duty icebreaker V-shaped ramming horns on the front. The entire vehicle covered in 50mm thick marine steel plates. Even adding anti-explosion chain armor to the outside of the tires. Brother, are you going to fight a war in Syria, or do you plan to drive this thing to crash through a mountain? This vehicle is already heavy enough. If you add this many chunks of iron, it'll be insane. What I want is absolute defense and impact power. Can you do it? If not, I'll find another shop. I can do it, I can, but the workload is too massive. Just the cutting and welding of those steel plates would take half my life, and your time frame is too tight. 3 days is simply impossible. 500,000 for labor. Materials extra. Wang Tieshan's breathing instantly became heavy. 500,000 was enough for him to work for 3 years. Deal. Boys, stop sleeping and get your asses up. We've got a big job. He roared toward the workshop. Just as the workers began their preparations, a sharp, piercing roar of an engine came from the factory entrance. A red Ferrari, like a bolt of lightning, rushed into the yard. In this place full of oil stains and scrap metal, it looked completely out of place. The car door opened. A young man wearing sunglasses and decked out in designer brands stepped out. It was Zhang Hao, the bastard who, in my previous life, relied on his sports car mutating into an agile-type mecha, stole my only food, and kicked me into a horde of zombies. Enemies meeting usually sparks rage, but I was strangely calm at this moment, coldly watching this flashy peacock. Is my wing here yet? I have to take first place. Found it. Full carbon fiber, same as the F1 racing cars, guaranteed to make your car as light as paper. Wang Taizan hurriedly responded. Hearing these words, from within the shadows, a cold smirk curled on my lips. Yes, light as paper. The moment the apocalypse arrives, mass is life. The carbon fiber body Zhang Hao was so proud of, in pursuit of ultimate speed, sacrificed all defense. In that mutation, although his mecha had teleport-like speed, its defense was worse than a tin trash can. What on earth is that? Zhang Hao finally noticed. That massive mining truck in the distance, blotting out the sky. Before the red Ferrari, this pitch-black beast was simply an insurmountable mountain. Hey, old Wang, since when did you start collecting scrap metal? Putting such a huge, ugly thing here. It's blocking my light, you know? He turned his head, and happened to meet my lifeless eyes. Oh, isn't this that guy? Ha ha ha. The insurance salesman, or the delivery guy. Lin Chen, right? What are you doing here? This car can't be yours, can it? Ha ha ha, you've gone crazy. Why buy a thing like this? Go move bricks at a construction site. I bet you're looking to scam people with a fake accident. Just park this thing across the road. And who would dare hit it? Ha! I'm dying of laughter. Can you talk? Are you mute? I'm talking to you. Hurry up and move this junk. My car needs an upgrade. Seeing me silent, Zhang Hao roared impatiently. Enjoy your speed while you can, because in 4 days, it'll only be useful for running for your life. Old Wang, ignore this freak. Do mine first, or don't expect the final payment. Zhang Hao shouted at Wang Taizan, watching Zhang Hao drive the Ferrari onto the lift, and start removing the original steel crash beams, to replace them with lighter carbon fiber parts. The irony in my eyes deepened. He was subtracting, while I was adding. In this upcoming apocalyptic gamble, we placed our bets on opposite ends. Night fell. To meet the deadline, I spent a full 200,000 as overtime pay. 20 welders worked in shifts. The original flat radiator grille had been removed, replaced by a massive triangular ramming horn. This horn was like a sword piercing the sky. Any obstacle in its path would be torn apart the moment of impact. This steel plate is too thin. Replace it. Bring that old ship plate over. I want the 30mm one. I commanded the welder. Hey brother, that's a ship plate. It's incredibly heavy. If we cover it all, the door hinges will snap, the foreman said hesitantly. Then replace the hinges too. Change them to tank pins, I said decisively. For 3 days and nights, I barely closed my eyes, staring intently at every weld, and every screw being tightened. With the addition of every steel plate, the aura of the vehicle was changing. It became a war mammoth clad in heavy armor. Early morning of the 3rd day, the modification finally finished. It sat there silently, emitting a suffocating sense of pressure. My goodness, what kind of monster have we created? Wang Taizan muttered, looking at the finished product. Completing the modification was only the first step. A tank without fuel is just a steel coffin. A fortress without food is just a grave. There were 3 days left until the apocalypse. I drove this black beast out of Scrap City. All the vehicles on the road looked like they'd seen a ghost. They all scrambled to make way for this 3,650 horsepower diesel engine. It was an absolute fuel guzzler. Fuel consumption per 100 kilometers was measured in hundreds of liters. Once the apocalypse arrives, gas stations will instantly explode or run dry. Fuel will become a hard currency more precious than gold. So I went straight to a private fuel depot. Boss, I want to buy diesel. Low temperature resistant, rated for -35 degrees. I'll take as much as you have. I knocked on the door of the depot office. The boss was a shrewd fat man. He looked up and down at my strange vehicle. Brother, inspections have been strict lately. Buying fuel in bulk requires a permit. 20% markup, cash payment. Also, I want those 200-liter drums. Fill them all up. Use a forklift to load them directly into my truck bed. I responded calmly. Money makes the world go round. Heavy drums of diesel began to pile up in the truck bed. A full 20 tons. Enough for me to drive thousands of kilometers in the apocalypse. Or to keep the generator running for half a year. Next, I drove the vehicle to a wholesale market. I didn't buy any of those fancy snacks. Instead, I headed straight for the grain and oil section. 500 boxes of compressed biscuits. 200 boxes of canned luncheon meat. 2 tons of rice. 2 tons of bottled pure water. Pure mountain spring water. The wholesale market owners were beaming with joy, thinking they'd met some big-time buyer. They even offered to deliver it for me. No need to deliver. I pointed to the black mountain parked outside. Just load it straight on. As the last crate of water was squeezed into a gap, the entire truck bed was completely filled. But this 400-ton capacity beast, carrying dozens of tons of supplies, the suspension didn't even sink a single centimeter. The last 24 hours before the apocalypse, the atmosphere in the city began to feel a bit off, although most people were still immersed in their daily hustle. But the sensitive ones had already noticed the anomaly. The sky turned an eerie grayish-yellow. The clouds pressed down extremely low. Even the mobile signal began to become intermittent, with news reporting anomalies appearing everywhere. Experts on TV were discussing whether this was a precursor to a sunspot eruption. But I knew this wasn't about sunspots. This was the mechanical spark approaching Earth. It was a high-dimensional energy wave. It would rewrite the physical laws of Earth. Driving the fortress, I slowly drove toward my carefully selected destination. It was located on the edge of the city, an unfinished overpass. The terrain here is very high, ideal for both offense and defense. Most importantly, there are few people and few cars here. After all, the first wave of the apocalypse's impact wouldn't come from mechanical beasts, but from the vehicles surrounding humans. January 26, 2026, 11:58. 2 minutes left until the apocalypse. This was the loudest time in the city. The intersection was teeming with traffic. A red Ferrari was revving its engine at the intersection. That was Zhang Hao. On the sidewalk, Wang Ergu was riding his old 28-inch bike, with freshly bought groceries hanging from the handlebars. Everyone was living according to their set tracks, completely unaware. Final 10 seconds, the grayish yellow in the sky suddenly turned into a blinding purplish red. The clouds began to swirl, forming a giant vortex. Every electronic device went black at that moment. The traffic lights went out. The entire city's power grid collapsed instantly. The whole world fell into a second of absolute silence. I took a deep breath. My hands gripped the steering wheel tightly, my knuckles turning white. An indescribable purple shockwave descended from the top of the firmament, sweeping across the globe in an instant. It wasn't the sound of an explosion, but a resonance that struck the soul directly. I felt no pain. I only felt a majestic force, pressing me down into the driver's seat. The seat became warm and soft. Countless nanometal particles surged from the seat, climbing up my spine, covering my entire body. Neural link, constructing power core, synchronizing life support system. A series of cold mechanical sounds activate, ringing directly in my mind. This is not an illusion. The windshield in front of me instantly liquefies, turning into a massive panoramic light screen. Countless data streams flash across it. Vehicle SCMG 400 Modified Fortress Conversion Protocol. Conservation of mass and functional mapping. Conversion completion, 100%. Mech codename Fortress. Height 15.6 m. Mass 660 t. Armor type, heavy ship. Composite steel armor. Average thickness 80 mm. Core, G400 diesel. Power, 3,650 horsepower. Power matrix. Power, 3,650 horsepower. Status, perfect. I suddenly clenched my fist, feeling the immense power within me. I merged as one with this steel behemoth. My thoughts are its commands. My will is its action. I looked out the window. My field of vision had risen over 10 meters high. The whole world has gone mad. At the intersection, that red Ferrari is violently transforming. Its body is stretching. 4 wheels flip and fold into 4 sharp claws. The back splits open to form a pair of sharp arm blades. A moment later, standing about 3 meters tall, a crimson assassin-type mech is born. Haha. Is this the power of a god? Zhang San's laughter, through some resonance channel, echoed in the minds of all nearby mechs. I feel like I can exceed the speed of light. His mech turned into a red blur, speeding through the streets. With a swing of its arm blades, a mech just converted from a bus was sliced clean in half. Trash. All of you are trash. Zhang San roared over the public channel. Not far away, Wang Er's vintage 28-inch bicycle also completed its transformation. The frame became a skeleton. 2 wheels hung one in front of the other on its back. The handlebars became 2 short batons. The entire mech looked extremely fragile. Mech codename unknown, mass 18 kilograms. In my field of vision, his data automatically popped up. This was me in my previous life, even slightly stronger than I was. My shared bike. After conversion, the mass was only 15 kilograms. This is the iron law of the apocalypse. Cruel and fair. Just then, that red blur noticed me. This black behemoth standing on the overpass. What the hell is that thing? For the first time, shock appeared in Zhang San's public channel. His 3-meter-tall crimson lightning was as tiny as a toy before my fortress. I responded. I simply slowly raised my right arm. This arm was modified from a dump truck weighing dozens of tons, covered by 30mm thick special steel plates. The ram at the front was heavy and menacing. With my movement, the massive diesel engine began to roar. The hydraulic system emitted a piercing boom. Thick black smoke billowed from the exhaust on my back, blotting out the sun. This pure sense of power left Zhang San speechless. Hey you! Who are you? Stop playing tricks. I'm warning you, don't get in my way. I am the king of speed. You're a sitting duck. Before he could finish, his crimson lightning's engine roared, turning into a red lion charging straight at me. He wanted to use the speed he was proud of to prove his strength. Those sharp arm blades sliced through the air at high speed, screeching as they aimed for my leg armor. In my previous life, that's how he kicked me into a pile of zombies. I looked at him silently. You know nothing about mass. My deep voice, transmitted through the public channel at full power, echoing through the entire block like a divine oracle. The next second, sparks flew everywhere. Zhang San's arm blades struck my shin armor, then shattered piece by piece. His arm blades made of F1 grade carbon fiber, in front of 80mm thick marine composite steel plates, were as fragile as crackers. The massive recoil sent his mech flying, tumbling backward pathetically. I'm impossible, Zhang San screamed. My carbon fiber, how is this possible? He thought carbon fiber was some divine weapon. I couldn't be bothered to waste more words on him. I lifted my right foot. That giant tire over 4 meters in diameter had now become a complex, combat-ready giant foot. I simply stepped down slowly. No! Stop! Zhang San's crimson lightning erupted with full power, attempting to escape the growing shadow. He was indeed fast, leaving afterimages on the ground, but it was meaningless against such a massive area of effect. The earth shook violently. The overpass beneath my feet groaned under the weight. Countless cracks spread out from the center of my soul. I slowly lifted my foot, leaving only a half-meter deep footprint on the ground, and in the center of that print, a piece of red scrap metal crushed into a flat disc. The world became quiet. I looked around. The chaos continued. The vehicle mechas that had just transformed. Some were frantically attacking everything around them. Others were fleeing in panic. This was the first wave of impact, chaos stemming from humanity itself. But just then, a low and piercing sound echoed from the far east of the city. Glug, glug, glug. In that sound, there was a powerful, primal sense of hunger. I snapped my head around, pushing my vision to the limit. On the eastern horizon, a behemoth was slowly rising. It was originally the city's largest landfill. Now, tens of thousands of tons of metal scrapped cars, and construction rebar. Everything was writhing, converging, and fusing. It had no fixed form, just a mass of writhing steel sludge. From its body, tentacles would occasionally emerge, tentacles composed of a dozen car wrecks, dragging a newly transformed mecha into its body, accompanied by a skin-crawling chewing sound. That mecha became part of its body. High-energy aggregate detected. Codename, Glutton. Larval mass approximately 8,000 tons. Warning. Extremely dangerous. Please evade immediately. The system in my mind blared a piercing alarm. 8,000 tons. I looked at that thing devouring everything. A monster whose size continued to expand. A long-forgotten shiver ran through my body. It turns out that in my previous life, in the eyes of those top predators, I wasn't even enough to get between their teeth. But now, I looked down at my own 660-ton steel body. Evade? I smiled. No. I shifted gears. The roar of the power core instantly surged by several magnitudes. It's time to hunt 8,000 tons. This is a number enough to drive anyone to despair. In the early days of the apocalypse, the mechas of the vast majority of survivors were still only in the range of a few or dozen tons. This monster, aggregated from trash and scrap steel, was an insurmountable god. It had no legs. Its chassis was a mass of writhing tracks, and a mixture of discarded tires. It moved slowly, but with every step forward, the asphalt road shattered like a cracker. Scrapped vehicles and lampposts along the way, and even low-level mechas that couldn't dodge in time, were all swept up by the magnetic tentacles extending from its body, and brutally stuffed into that giant maw, cobbled together from several excavator buckets. The ear-splitting sound of metal chewing echoed through the block. Warning. Energy gap too large. Immediate evacuation recommended. In my mind, the system's cold prompt flashed a blinding red light. I raised my hand and swiped the air, directly shutting down the alarm module. Does being noisy necessarily mean being strong? I leaned back in the warm driver's seat, my hands gripping the dual-track control levers, transformed from the steering wheel. In my past life, I repaired vehicles for a fleet for 3 years. I've seen too many assembled pieces of junk that were strong on the outside but hollow inside. This glutton is merely a larva. Its mass is forcibly piled up by devouring trash. Its internal structure is loose, without any thorough tempering by high-dimensional energy. It is a loose sandcastle, while I am a solid steel ball. The glutton noticed me, a 15.6-meter-high fortress, covered in pitch-black heavy armor on this overpass, was simply too conspicuous. Roar! A strange laugh, like an air raid siren, rang out. A giant tentacle, formed by 3 bus carriages, connected end to end and twisted together, with a shrill whistling wind, transformed into a giant whip and smashed down from above. I didn't retreat. I slammed the joystick forward. The 3,650 horsepower G400 diesel matrix let out a heaven-shaking roar. 2 pillars of pitch-black smoke erupted from the exhaust. Fortress's thick legs bent slightly. Then, they surged with power. The overpass surface collapsed instantly. I didn't choose to resist. Instead, using the momentum of the collapse, I charged straight at that bus-sized tentacle. Clang! Fortress's right arm rose. That shield, made from a decommissioned icebreaker's 30mm special steel plate armor, slammed hard into the sparks of the attacking tentacle, creating a brief cascade of sparks. The tentacle snapped. The thin sheet metal of the bus carriage, before true heavy industrial special steel, was utterly fragile. The massive recoil dented Fortress's right arm armor by a barely noticeable few millimeters, but the core structure remained intact. Just this much strength. I grinned. A flash of violence flickered in my eyes. Fortress landed. The 660-ton body slammed onto the street, stamping 2 deep craters. Without a moment's hesitation, I floored the accelerator. No -35 low-temperature diesel exploded violently in the combustion chamber. Surging kinetic energy poured through the drive shaft into the legs. The 660-ton steel fortress erupted with a terrifying explosive power that defied its massive size, charging toward that writhing 8,000-ton mountain of steel. A fearless charge. Seeing me, a mere ant, dared to deliver myself to its door. The glutton let out an ear-piercing, eerie laugh. The remaining dozen or so tentacles lashed out simultaneously. Some were giant spears forged from excavator arms, some were strangling whips of rebar and sheet metal, and some were giant hammers cobbled from scrapped containers, like a death net blotting out the sky, sealing off all my escape routes. The surviving mechas around me let out cries of despair over the public channel. "He's crazy! He's absolutely insane, an 8,000-ton larval glutton. Even a tank division couldn't withstand it. He actually dares to charge head-on. It's over. He's going to be shredded into scrap metal." But they didn't know. After 3 years of struggling in the apocalypse of my previous life, I've seen too many cobbled-together pieces of junk that looked strong but were hollow. I understood one unbreakable truth even better. Flashy attacks, no matter how many, can't break a strong defense. It's all nonsense. The moment those dozen tentacles were about to strike, a cold light surged in my eyes. The neural link instantly hit maximum. From the depths of my soul, a roar. Shatter! With a single thought, the icebreaker, ram on the right arm, instantly disintegrated into countless cold glistening nanometal particles. In just 0.3 seconds, a giant single-edged heavy blade, 12.8 meters long and weighing 85 tons, took shape. The blade body was the original special nickel-chromium alloy steel of the icebreaker. The edge was the wear-resistant shovel blade of a mining dump truck. The patterns on the blade still carried the cold, hard-killing intent of the original ram, perfectly fitting the heavy load of my fortress mecha. Origin of shattering. Break! I roared. My waist twisted violently. Every bit of the 3,650 horsepower of power was poured into the right arm. The rock-shattering heavy blade struck the tentacle net, slashing out a heaven-shaking arc of light. Several deafening clashes of metal exploded in succession. Sparks nearly illuminated half of Linhai City. Those tentacles that could easily flatten a dozen-ton mecha. Before this heavy blade infused with the full weight of the mecha, were as brittle as dried twigs. All severed in a single strike. Severed sheet metal and rebar crashed to the ground. Black hydraulic oil poured down like a rainstorm. The public channel fell into a deathly silence. Seconds later, an overwhelming wave of screams erupted. "Holy shit! He cut through a dozen tentacles in one blow. What kind of monster-level strength is this? Where did that blade come from? It clearly wasn't there a moment ago. Compared to Zhang Hao's carbon fiber blade that's as fragile as paper. This is what you call real killing intent. I had no time to care about the commotion on the channel. Using the recoil from severing the tentacles, Fortress's legs surged with power. The 660-ton body soared into the air, jumping directly onto the Glutton. Its mountain-like torso, the steel sludge beneath my feet writhed frantically. Countless spikes surged up, trying to impale me, but the 80mm thick marine composite armor crushed down hard, grinding all the spikes into iron shavings. My gaze locked onto the center of its torso, that pulsing purple-red spark core, its only weakness. Game over. I raised the rock-shattering heavy-blade high, pouring all power into the blade. I thrust it violently toward the core, but the moment the tip was about to touch the core, a blinding purple-red light suddenly erupted. A suffocating, terrifying energy exploded instantly. In my mind, the system's piercing alarm wailed. Warning! Glutton is forcing an evolution. Mass has exceeded 20,000 tons. Core energy is completely out of control. The evolutionary energy shockwaves swept across the entire street, surrounding abandoned buildings, like they were made of paper, collapsed with a roar. The once loose slurry of steel was frantically compressed and fused under high-dimensional energy. A 20,000-ton steel body, forcibly forged into 750mm thick monolithic alloy armor. The once writhing chassis sprouted 76 thick, giant mechanical legs. The evolved core in its chest radiated like a beating miniature sun. An apocalyptic pressure. The remaining survivors in the public channel fell into complete despair. It's over. An evolved 20,000-ton Glutton. Lin Hai is completely doomed. The tonnage difference is nearly 20 times. No matter how fierce the big shot was just now, there's no way he can win. Run! If we don't run now, it'll be too late. The system's red alerts continued to flood the screen. Warning. Target's total combat power is 17 times that of the host, capable of releasing area of effect energy shockwaves. Please evacuate immediately. Evacuate? Leaning back in the warm pilot seat, a cold smile curled on my lips. In my past life, I'd seen plenty of these kit-bash monstrosities that force evolution through energy. Its tonnage seems to have skyrocketed. Defense level, extremely weak. But in reality, its core is completely exposed. Defense level, extremely weak. At the joints of the 6 mechanical legs are all fatal gaps from insufficient energy tempering. It is still just a loose sandcastle, while I am the solid steel ball that hardens with every temper. The enraged evolved Glutton opened its maw and spat out a purple-red energy beam. Wherever the shockwave passed, the asphalt road melted directly into molten iron, heading straight for my cockpit. Everyone thought I would dodge, but I did exactly the opposite. I slammed the control lever forward. The Fortress mech charged fearlessly into the shockwave. Simultaneously, with a single thought, the rock-shattering heavy-blade instantly switched forms. The blade expanded into a 20-meter-wide alloy shield, blocking firmly in front of me. The shockwave slammed hard against the giant shield. A piercing sound of burning metal erupted. The entire block was shrouded in purple-red light. When the light faded, the whole world went silent. My Fortress mech still stood firmly in place. Though the giant shield had scorch marks, it remained intact. Fortunately, completely unscathed. Impossible! This is absolutely impossible, someone screamed in the public channel. In the instant the Glutton was stunned, I seized this fleeting opening. The Fortress mech leaped violently, using the momentum of the charge, and crushed his body hard. The joints of 2 of its mechanical legs. The evolved Glutton instantly lost its balance, letting out a roar of agony. Its massive body stumbled and crashed to the ground. I didn't pause for a second. The hydraulic anchor on my left arm slammed into its torso, holding it motionless regardless of how it rolled or struggled. The rock-shattering heavy-blade in my right hand rose high again. The blade hummed due to power overload. Golden energy flowing along the edge. The heavy blade, carrying apocalyptic force, thrust violently into its chest, right into the completely exposed ember core. The shattered core exploded instantly. High-dimensional energy, many times stronger than before, surged out like a tsunami. The evolved Glutton, its 20,000-ton body let out a death knell, then rapidly disintegrated, finally turning into a pile of molten scrap metal. Nanometal particles frantically devoured the surging ember energy. System notifications flooded my mind. High-risk ember energy absorption complete. Mech mass increased to 2,100 tons. Armor thickness upgraded to 150 millimeters. Ember-tempered alloy steel. Power core upgraded to dual-matrix diesel engine. Peak power 18,000 horsepower. Rock-shattering heavy-blade upgrade complete. Capable of releasing ember armor-piercing shockwaves. Mass increased to 120 tons. I slowly clenched my fist, feeling the tumultuous power surging within. With a casual swing of the blade, a golden shockwave sliced a distant office building clean in half. As the golden light faded, the entire street fell silent, leaving only the crackle of cooling metal. I stand in the center of the Glutton's wreckage. Beneath my feet is a river of scrap metal melted into dark red. Behind me, 2 massive exhaust pipes spew black smoke. The 15-meter fortress has now expanded to over 720 meters. The armor is thicker. The joints are heavier. Every breath is like a steel factory in operation. A trembling voice finally sounds on the public channel. Big brother, you? Just what level of mecha are you? I look down. Behind the ruins at the street corner, a few small mechas are huddling there. Some converted from vans, some converted from sedans, and one thin-legged mecha transformed from a delivery e-bike, still holding a deformed thermal box in its hand. They didn't rush forward, nor did they beg for mercy. They were simply terrified. That look in their eyes. In my previous life, I was all too familiar with it. When the apocalypse first began, everyone thought they had awakened and become the protagonist, until the first monster appeared. Then they realized they were just walking rations. I ignored them. The spark furnace in Fortress's chest vibrated slightly, automatically absorbing the remaining high-dimensional fragments of the Glutton into its body. Detected mergeable module. Magnetic traction chain source. Merge Glutton's tentacle structure? Merge, clank clank. The heavy armor on Fortress's back opened. A dozen thick black chains extended from both sides of the spine, with magnetic anchors and barbs at the ends. The moment the magnetic traction chain fusion was complete, the armor on Fortress's back closed again. Those few small mechas at the corner finally plucked up the courage to come out. A van mecha raised its hands, its voice trembling. Big brother, we mean no harm. We just wanted to ask if we could follow you. The delivery e-bike mecha beside it was more direct. Its legs were shaking. I won't be a burden. I can deliver goods. I can patch tires. I can run errands. I glanced at them. Delivery e-bike mecha. Dozens of kilograms. Mass ranged from dozens of kilograms to 2 tons. Silver-white sedan mecha. 1.2 tons. Day 1 of the apocalypse. Mechas like these aren't even considered cannon fodder, but the fear in their eyes was real. In my last life, I also stood before the strong like this, pressing my dignity as low as possible, just begging for a single meal. I didn't open my mouth to refuse, nor did I agree. Right then, heavy footsteps echoed from the end of the distant street. Thump, thump, thump. An off-road mecha about 6 meters tall stepped out from behind the ruins. Broad shoulders, thick armor, limbs, sturdy chest, also sporting an impact guard, transformed from an off-road vehicle's front bumper. Behind him followed a dozen small mechas, like a pack of hounds that had just found a patron. A familiar voice sounded on the public channel. Don't panic, I'm Li Meng. From now on, this block is under my control. My gaze turned cold. Li Meng, the temporary leader of the 3rd Linhai shelter in my previous life. He wasn't the strongest, but he was the best at pretending to be a good person. He talked about unified resource management, but in reality, he robbed whoever was weak. I spent 3 years repairing cars in my previous life, replacing armor plates for him countless times. Every time he'd pat my shoulder and say, "Lynch, and keep it up, I won't let you down." Later, when the zombie tide rushed into the camp, he was the first to push us mechanics out, to block the door. Li Meng's off-road mecha stopped 100 meters in front of me. He looked up at the 20-plus meter fortress. His voice clearly paused for a moment, but he quickly regained his composure. Brother, I saw everything just now. You're definitely powerful, but no matter how powerful one person is, they can't protect this many supplies alone. He pointed to the truck bed behind me, piled with diesel, canned food, water, and compressed biscuits. Day 1 of the apocalypse. These things are more valuable than life. The surrounding survivors. The looks in the mecha's eyes changed instantly. A hint of desire added to the fear. Li Meng understood human nature well. He continued, "How about this? Hand over the supplies. We'll distribute them uniformly, and you'll be the main combat force. I'll handle the management. We'll combine our strengths. More people will survive." The van mecha couldn't help taking half a step back. The delivery e-bike mecha whispered, "But those supplies belong to Big Brother." Li Meng suddenly turned his head. "It's already the apocalypse. Why are you still separating yours from mine? He's so strong. Would he die from eating a little less?" At that, the public channel fell silent. I laughed. This trick was too familiar. In my previous life, he did the same thing, standing on the moral high ground, and turning other people's things into everyone's with one sentence. I raised my right arm. The rock-crushing heavy cleaver hung by my side. The blade tip scraped across the ground, carving out a trench bursting with sparks. "Li Meng, if you want to rob me, just say it." Li Meng's voice sank. "Brother, don't make it sound so ugly. I'm giving you a way out. You just went through a major battle. Your mecha must have consumed a lot. I have more than a dozen people here. Are you really going to turn against all survivors over a few boxes of canned food?" The mechas behind him immediately surrounded me. Some were nervous, some were excited. A mecha transformed from a small truck raised a steel fork. His voice sounded dry. "Brother Meng is right. Supplies should be distributed uniformly." Another sedan mecha shouted along. "With this much diesel, can he use it all by himself?" The delivery e-bike mecha grew anxious. "Why didn't you dare fight the Glutton happened just now? Now you come out to divide the supplies? Li Meng raised his hand and slapped him. That e-bike mecha was sent rolling 7 or 8 meters away. The thermal delivery box was smashed out of shape. Do you have any right to speak here? My gaze turned completely cold. I can choose not to save people, but I hate people stepping on the weak while pretending to be saviors. Li Meng turned back. His tone carried a threat. Lin Chen, last chance? Hand over the supplies. Join us. Otherwise, don't blame me for being ruthless. I didn't answer. The twin matrix diesel cores in Fortress's chest ignited with a roar. 2 streams of black smoke blasted from its back. Shattered glass across the entire street trembled. Li Meng's expression changed. He immediately took half a step back. But there were too many people behind him. He couldn't back down. He just fought the glutton. He's just an empty shell now. More than a dozen mechas charged at once. Steel forks, iron rods, and car door shields slammed messily toward my leg joints. I stood in place without moving. Clang, 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 clang. Sparks flew everywhere. Those attacks hit the 150mm spark-tempered alloy steel and didn't leave even a decent scratch. Someone froze on the spot. How can we fight this? I lifted my foot and stomped lightly. Boom! The ground collapsed. The 3 small mechas at the very front were shaken to the ground. Their joints sprayed sparks. I didn't crush them. I only made them unable to move. The ones who truly deserved punishment were not these incited fools. It was Li Meng. Taking advantage of the chaos, he circled to my side. His off-road mecha's shoulder armor unfolded into a heavy charge. The 6-meter-tall mecha burst out with startling speed, like an out-of-control armored vehicle, slamming hard into my knee. In my previous life, he used this move to knock down many strong opponents. Unfortunately, before the 2,100-ton fortress, his impact was not even a ripple. I raised my hand and spread my 5 fingers. The armor on my back silently split open. The next second, more than a dozen pitch-black magnetic towing chains shot out of thin air. The back that had been empty moments ago instantly spread open like a steel spiderweb. Li Meng's pupils contracted sharply. What is that? The magnetic anchors bit precisely into his shoulders, waist armor, and leg joints with a hiss. Strong magnetic locks engaged. His charge was forced to stop 30 meters in front of me. Inertia tore through his armor with a screeching sound. I pulled with my right arm. The 6-meter-tall off-road mecha was dragged to my feet like a sack. Li Meng completely panicked. It's a misunderstanding. I only wanted to cooperate. I looked down at him. You said the same thing in my previous life. Li Meng froze. What previous life? I didn't explain. The rock-crushing heavy cleaver flipped around. I slammed down with the back of the blade. Crack. His right arm armor shattered on the spot. The crash guard from the off-road vehicle's transformation shattered everywhere. The second blow snapped the left leg's drive shaft. The third blow, the row of impact guards on the chest was smashed into scrap metal. Li Meng's voice changed completely. No longer steady like before. Only fear remained. Stop hitting me. Stop. I don't want the supplies anymore. I'm leaving. I'll leave right now. I leaned down, pressing his head armor with a giant steel palm. My voice echoed across the entire street. Remember, the apocalypse is not a stage for you to play the good guy. If you dare use others as bargaining chips again, I won't just be stripping your outer armor. Li Meng lay on the ground, not moving. He didn't dare move. The mechas behind him all froze. The small truck mecha that had been shouting the loudest silently dropped its steel fork on the ground. The delivery e-bike mecha crawled out from the ruins, looking at me. His voice was incredibly hoarse. Big brother, thank you. I didn't look at him as I retracted the magnetic tow chain. Then I bent down. From the wreckage of the glutton, I picked up a glowing red ember shard. System notification sounded. Low-level ember fragment detected. Can be used for temporary enhancement of auxiliary mechas. I turned to look at the delivery e-bike mecha. He was so scared he immediately stood up straight. I tossed the ember shard at his feet. You dared to speak just now. This is your reward. He was stunned. The breathing of all surrounding mechas paused for a moment. Li Meng lay on the ground, electrical sparks still popping from the armor gaps. Looking at that ember shard, his eyes were bloodshot. The delivery e-bike mecha tremblingly picked up the shard. The next second, his thin legs began to restructure. The thermal box on his back split open, turning into a pair of lightweight propulsion wings. His voice trembled uncontrollably in the public channel. Big brother, I've become stronger. The delivery e-bike mecha had just finished fusing the ember shard. His height shot up from 1.5 meters to 2.8 meters. The newly born propulsion wings on his back folded. The thin iron-gray edges were still humming and vibrating. Big brother, my name is Su Fan. He looked up, his voice still shaking. I used to be a delivery driver. I handled all the orders around Linhai University. No one was faster than me within 3 kilometers. I didn't say anything. At this moment, on the system map, Linhai City had become a chaotic mess of red and green green dots. Red dots were mechanical beasts. Green dots were survivor mechas. The green dots were rapidly decreasing, not because they were eaten by mechanical beasts, but because they were devouring each other. I was preparing to take the supplies and move to a safer vantage point. Suddenly, a voice exploded in the public channel. The Linhai industrial port area has been fully taken over by me. There are large amounts of fuel and metal in the port, materials, and industrial machinery. Those who want to survive, bring your supplies and report to the port. Those who don't come must bear the consequences. The channel instantly erupted. Zhao Henian, the eldest son of the Zhao shipping family. There are several 10,000-ton cargo ships docked at the port, right? It's over if those cargo ships also turned into mechas. I stared at the system map, at the dense cluster of light dots in the port's direction. Zhao Henian would be the biggest power player in Linhai City, not because he was a great fighter, but because of his father's shipping company. There were 73 10,000-ton bulk carriers docked at the port. The moment the apocalypse arrived, 3 10,000-ton cargo ships transformed simultaneously. The transformation efficiency of ships is far lower than land vehicles. Ship hulls use a large number of low-density compartment structures. The actual effective mass is only about 1/3 of the self-weight, but the sheer scale is overwhelming. With the 3 ships combined, the effective transformation mass alone exceeded 715,000 tons. In my previous life, Zhao Henian relied on these 3 ship mechas to dominate Linhai for half a year, until he encountered that thing crawling out of the deep sea.